we're spending a lot more time playing than we are coaching. That dearth of coaching is a real crisis in the marketplace today. As a leader, do you feel you're spending enough time coaching those that work with you? Do you feel that you have been able to give the kind of energy, time of your best coach that you ever had to your people today? I don't know about you, but personally, I find myself falling short of my own expectations of being the kind of coach, leader, and developer of my own people. And I'm seeing consistently, based on flattening organizations, based on increasing pressure on leaders and managers for meeting more and more demands in the marketplace, that we're all playing and coaching at the same time, and as a result, we're spending a lot more time playing than we are coaching. That dearth of coaching is a real crisis in the marketplace today, and it's met with a group of individuals coming into the workplace who never before have demanded more coaching, more attention. We roll our eyes and joke about the millennials, but these individuals have raised the bar in terms of our ability to meet a hurdle of care, attentiveness, coaching, leadership, guidance, etc., that they really want and they need. And if we don't meet that, we aren't meeting our expectations as leaders. So what do you do when you're squeezed between an increased demand and a lack of supply in the coaching world? I believe that we shift the burden. The first thing that I recommend you do as a manager is that you say to your people, uncle. Let your people know that you feel badly that you cannot supply the kind of coaching you would like, that you care deeply about their growth and their development, but you struggle based on all of the other time pressures that you have to deliver at a level that you feel they deserve. So open up vulnerably and empathetically to them and let them know you believe you're failing them, that you want more for them, that you feel that you can deliver. And independent of what they say back, what placation they might give you, you need to stand pat that they deserve more. The second thing you could admit to the fact is that in many of the work that they're doing, you may not even see it. I mean, with the virtual workplace that we live in today, with the dispersed teams that we're all on today, so much of the work that your folks are doing is not under your eye directly, but under the eyes of their peers. So with that invitation, you could also mention the fact that if you really look at the greatest sports teams, where do they get their coaching? Sure, they get it from their skills coach, they get it from their overall coach, but they get it from each other. A great sports team at halftime, in the huddle, they're getting feedback and coaching about that last play, about the next play. The peer group that's working together, that's playing together, actually forms a supply of that critical coaching, which is not, by the way, the contract that we have in today's workplace. The contract that we have in today's workplace is that you still, and it's an old contract, but you're still waiting to get it from your manager, and you get it maybe from training, but feedback is not something you get from your peer group. It's not a part of the contract. Maybe in rarefied situations where you have deep personal relationships, you might get a little coaching and feedback from your peers, but it is not a standard contract that if you walk into the room with a group of individuals, you're going to get it from them. There are rare individuals like Ray Dalio and his organization that's opened this up, but it's absolutely crucial that we as leaders begin to move this feedback culture forward and this culture of development forward. The other thing I would do is I would say to my team, identify somebody in the workplace who you really respect for a competency, for a skill set, for a way of being, for a way of working, etc. And start to seek their advice, start to compliment them and invite them in to give you some comments and ideas. The flip side of that is you can encourage your teammates to literally do their own verbal 360-degree review. You know, 360-degree reviews are things that most of us wait for the HR organization to apply to us, and they do it anonymously, but it doesn't stop any of us from reaching around to the people we work with and say, hey, by the way, I really want to be the best performer I can here. And you see me working all the time. If I was your cousin, your brother, or your sister, what feedback would you give me if you really cared about my success? What could I do that would help me meet a higher threshold of success? This is something you can encourage your people to do. You could even run this process in the organization. You could start with yourself. In the next staff meeting, you could say to your people, you know what, I want to be the best leader I can be for all of you. Would all of you be willing to tell me one thing that you love about my leadership and one thing that you think, because you care about me and my ability to perform as a leader to you, that you'd ask me to consider changing or doing differently? And sit there and soak all of that information in, then say thank you and say, that was a lot of great feedback. I'm gonna think on that, but one of the things I'm definitely gonna start working on is X. And then say to folks, listen, if I didn't say that your thing is the thing I'm gonna work on, I'm gonna think about this. I'm gonna corroborate it with other pieces of input, etc. But I deeply appreciate this kind of transparency, and I deeply appreciate your care enough for me to tell me what I can do to be a better leader. Now then ask them to do the same process. You could, with enough psychological safety in your room that if you could create, they might say, does anybody else want that kind of feedback for yourself? Maybe tee it up in advance that somebody's willing to volunteer and start getting the ball moving. You could have that kind of an open dialogue. I call it an open 360. We invented this for our coaching process with executive teams, with high impact teams. There's so many things you can do that get individuals to put their own playbook together, their own learning network together. You need to, as a leader, start to unleash the coaching within your team. You need to shift the burden from your shoulders to the team to coach each other. You need to shift the burden from your shoulders to every individual's to be an enlister of feedback and coaching for themselves and to run their own coaching plans. I had to create a word that I thought summarized these kind of relationships that cared so much about each other, that we don't just sit on a team together waiting for feedback from the manager, but we lean in and care enough to give it to each other. I call them co-elevating relationships, committed to going higher together, committed to driving our competencies, our skills, ourselves, and our missions higher in the organization. Be the kind of leader, be the kind of coach that coaches your teams to be coaches of each other. There's an entire untapped reservoir of coaching sitting in organizations today. Co-elevating relationships. Become the coaches of the future. Be the leader that incites these.